Bring it on.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth? I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Here comes the truth.
Welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Great to be with you. Happy Mondays. Don't have a case of them. Check out the Facebook page and chime in on what you're hearing. And we will have access to the great guests that we have on, too. A way to do that, their articles and, well, commentary. With that said, another place in our great resource, nothingbuttruth.com, nothingbuttruth.com. Just check it out. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth now welcomes our good friend, David Gartenstein-Ross, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And David, the issue of the NSA is not going away anytime soon, especially when the president starts to answer questions about it at a press conference with almost, here, roll it.
U.S. persons without a warrant. And there are a whole range of safeguards that have been put in place to make sure that that basic principle is abided by. But what is clear is that whether because of the instinctive bias of the intelligence community to keep everything very close, and probably what's a fair criticism is my assumption that if we had checks and balances from the courts and Congress, that that traditional system of checks and balances would be enough to give people assurance that these programs will run properly. That assumption, I think, proved to be undermined by what happened after the leaks.
David, not a very strong defense of saying, hey, we're not reading your emails. He references, but then he goes into saying, hey, we probably need to look at this more and seek more reform. Your thoughts on the NSA programs, the metadata program, the PRISM program, the ones that have been exposed by Edward Snowden?
Well, there are a variety of programs there. The one that I find far and away the most troubling is the metadata program. The reason why is I don't actually suspect the government of having abused it. There's no evidence that they have. But this is a massive trove of data of every phone call that people have made over a very long period, and you can discern a great deal of information from this. You can discern information about who's calling suicide hotlines, who's calling numbers for alcohol or drug treatment, even who's calling sex hotlines. Things that a lot of people consider to be part of their personal lives and their private lives suddenly are not only observed in this government database, but are preserved for quite some time. I think that is problematic. Other things that Snowden has revealed are far less problematic than portrayed. PRISM, for example, is a collection device. We know that the government had capabilities to collect information. You also had revelations about devices that are used to analyze data once the government has it in hand. That's also not problematic. We know that the government can analyze data. And the real question is, are there adequate safeguards? And given the secrecy of these programs, I don't think many people are confident in saying that, yes, there are adequate safeguards. So I think that this is a debate that should remain, but that's not to say that I support all of the revelations that Snowden has. In fact, I think that some of them are quite harmful.
How do you view Snowden?
I view him as a criminal. Before the segment, you wanted to address the question of whether Snowden is a traitor or a whistleblower, yes. And I'm not a fan of that debate because it poses two different answers that are two opposite sides of the spectrum. Traitor is suggested that Snowden has committed treason. That's one extreme. Whistleblower means that everything that he has put forward is justified in the public interest. And even if one, for example, is very sympathetic with his revelation of the metadata program. And I don't actually even consider him a whistleblower there because it was done pursuant to a court order, and he didn't follow the procedures that a whistleblower should follow. But at any rate, even if one is sympathetic to him there, he revealed a lot of other information, including the U.S.'s spying programs that are directed towards China. That's particularly problematic to me because China is this power that spies on us. And thus, I see absolutely no justification for somebody revealing our programs that in turn are directed at China. If somebody is spying on the U.S., the bottom line is I absolutely want the U.S. to be spying on them as well.
David, mentioning of how he's portrayed and the drama that is this man's life now, along with his father, we're getting a full dose of it. Yet you did mention that he didn't qualify for whistleblower protections because he didn't follow that law, and there were opportunities for him to expose this program. Two things. One, I'll ask the first question, okay? With those opportunities and the information that he has leaked, plus the countries that he's looked to go to, is there a stronger condemnation other than criminal, a man who has betrayed his country? I would say he has betrayed his country. Am I wrong?
I'm not going to argue that you're wrong. I mean, it in part depends.
Come on,
upon
it'll be
things.
Fun.
But no, I mean, at the end of the day,
yeah.
The reason why I'm not saying that is simply because it depends upon information that I don't know. If Snowden gave critical information to Russia or to China, then I absolutely would regard him as a traitor. I just don't know what he's given to them. He claims that he hasn't done so, and I personally. I don't see a need for me to get into that.
No, I understand. I understand that. And all kidding aside, what I wanted to do was just get your thoughts and flesh it out more, not just the mere aspect of fun and debating, which it is for me overall. But I think you make a very good point in the sense of what we know and what we totally know, not what we can speculate, because I would fault the other side for a lot of speculation,
right.
And I understand it, but nonetheless, it is speculation.
But let me actually address your point a little bit more, because you mentioned that he didn't follow whistleblower protections, but it's more than that. Even if one thinks that absolutely he is a whistleblower on the issue of metadata, that was absolutely in the U.S. public interest, and it qualifies him for whistleblower protection 100%. Look at the broad range of things that he's revealed. Right? It's not just what the U.S. government has done that potentially affects U.S. citizens. It's also how the U.S. government spies on China, what the U.S. government's platforms are that it uses to collect information and to analyze information. That's a whole lot of things, which at the end of the day, I think, number one, there's no way that most of this information could be regarded as blowing the whistle. And what kind of platforms the NSA uses, given that its charge is spying on other countries, that's not the kind of thing that in any way can be regarded as blowing the whistle on wrongdoing within government. So even if you think he's a whistleblower, even if someone thinks he's a whistleblower for one part of what he's revealed, the fact is that the vast majority of what he revealed, not only is he violating his contract with government by revealing the secret information, but also it wouldn't get him whistleblower protection. It's against the law, and in my view, it is quite harmful to the U.S. because these are programs that at the end of the day, we may not like it that there's a necessity for the U.S. to be engaged in electronic espionage, but that's the world that we live in.
More to come on this issue, certainly, and we'll be asking you about it in the future. The final question to wrap up the segment, David, is when Mike Rogers and someone on the Dianne Feinstein come out and say, hey, look, we're briefed on these programs, they were in the know. Is there evidence to the contrary that they did not have access to the information about these programs?
There's certainly information that some members of Congress feel that they were not adequately informed. Given that we haven't seen the briefings, I can't resolve that debate amongst them. It's possible that they were informed. It's possible that other members just didn't understand what they were hearing. I'm personally skeptical that there's been adequate oversight. I think this is a very important issue, and the issue of what privacy means in the 21st century is something that should concern all of us.
David Gartenstein-Ross, next week, you're going to the bottom of the hour. Great to be with you. Thank you for taking the time, my friend. Always.
Great. Always a pleasure.
David Gartenstein-Ross, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, is coming up. Pete Sepp, National Taxpayers Union, consequences of the press conference, AFR Talk.
Liberty Counsel